My name is Satyanshu Singh. In 2020, I had conducted a series of lectures to raise money for coronavirus charity. This lecture on Kumbalangi Nights was conducted in association with Lost the Plot on 29th May. About 70,000 rupees were collected through the lecture, all of which went to 20 different NGOs and funds providing relief during the pandemic. This is the fourth part of the lecture in which we discuss the tone of the film. I hope you enjoy listening to this.
ജരാതുകൾ തോറും നിത്യോർമയായി തരാതെ പോ ചാരുവാമുമ്മകളായി.
We come from a filmmaking tradition and also a mythological tradition where we fuse genres, where we hardly make genre films. We don't make pure comedies. We don't make pure thrillers. So I don't think Kumbalangi Nights is a genre film at all. So I don't think it is possible to put one genre to Kumbalangi Nights. But if I have to, my answer is not drama, not dramedy, but comedy. Comedy doesn't mean you will not cry while watching the film. Charlie Chaplin, comedy, right? But you feel so bad for him. That doesn't make the film a drama. Why I'm saying it's a comedy? Because our characters are comic characters. They are not tragic heroes. They are not like Macbeth, that they are flawed in a dramatic way. They are flawed in a comedic way. So our characters are non-heroes. Our villain is so quirky that he's a kind of a comic villain. The most intense scenes in the film very quickly adopt a comic tone. Now, of course, it's safe to say that it's a dramedy because it's a drama and comedy both. In the end, after all of this is futile. How you define the genre of the film is futile because the audience does not care about the genre. Audience wants to have a good story on screen. So what is important is you ask this question for yourself, but the answer need not be neat. The answer can be complex. You use 3-4 words to explain the genre. It is fine. And this is what tone is. Tone is trying to define the genre of a film with as much detail as possible. So instead of saying comedy, we say dramedy. So that is a tone that we get. It's a romantic dramedy with moments of dark humor. This is how you define your tone. What do you want to eat? Chinese food. This is the genre. Simple definition. What exactly in Chinese food? Then you define that this gravy, this noodles, you define the ingredients out of the Chinese menu. Similarly, you figure out the genre broadly, then you define the genre with these elements of the genre. That is tone. Remember that scene where Saji comes out of the police station? Then he goes to meet his friend's wife. He is guilt-ridden. He is grieving. He is upset. If we wrote that scene, we would write that this pregnant widow is all crying and she's a bechari. But these writers have made sure that this woman, this pregnant woman who has just lost her husband, is not crying. She's pretty much in control of her situation, except that she needs an auto rickshaw to go to the hospital. But otherwise, she's sorted. Okay? If you wrote that scene in a way, Saji goes to her, apologizes, she is crying, Saji is crying, and then Saji says, how can I help you? And she says, I need an auto rickshaw. This is the tone of drama. But see what happens here. Saji falls on the ground. This is why I say he's a comic character. Doesn't have the insight. He's like a child. When we fall on the floor, we'll think, will it hurt me? Saji doesn't have that insight. So he falls. Talk. Even when he's grieving, he's capable of doing this. Not to make us laugh, because that is how he is. It comes from within. And this woman is not contributing to the sadness of the scene at all. In fact, surprisingly, she's making sure that the scene does not become too sad. Do you see how the woman's character and Saji's action is controlling the drama of the scene and pushing it towards comedy? And now I'm going to give you examples from the film and just compare in your head, what if we did this differently? What if we wrote the scene with a different approach? Suddenly you would see that the film changes in our head. I'll start with ellipsis. Ellipsis is a tool where you deliberately and obviously withdraw information. You withhold the information for dramatic effect. In the story, what is the strongest use of ellipsis? Deliberate, obvious withholding of information for dramatic impact. It is so obvious that everyone in the audience knows कि यार वो क्यों नहीं दिखाया. When the backstory is not revealed, audience doesn't know this, that the backstory is being withheld. When the plot is withheld, something in the plot is withheld, then the audience will know, right? That अरे बताया ही नहीं क्या हुआ. If we wrote Kumbalangi Nights, Shammi attacks his wife, all the three ladies, and we don't show that, such a strong decision. Even the most dumbest people in the audience, even they are aware that they are withholding information. Something is going on inside the house and the storytellers are not showing us that. This is ellipsis. It is deliberate and it is obvious that I will not tell you what happened. So then they come, okay, and Bobby says, let me go and see. So the two brothers wait and Bobby goes and Shammi opens the door. We have seen Shammi marking something with chalk and we have seen Shammi dressing up, looking himself in the mirror. Are magar, what happened to the ladies? Wait, I'll tell you, wait. Then Bobby goes, Shammi opens the door. Bobby leaves his chappal outside and enters. We are waiting. This is ellipsis. That is a tonal decision. If you see these ladies being hit, the tone suffers. It becomes ugly, violent, dramatic. It can't be funny anymore. A man is hitting three women, cannot be funny. So it is a tonal decision, because then it makes the film violent and gory, and that's not the tone of the film. What is the second reason? I'm giving you a mantra. Whenever you take a creative decision, try to back it with two solid reasons. If you take creative decisions for one solid reason, you may end up taking hundreds of unnecessary decisions. But when you have a creative decision backed by two solid reasons, then you'll always have economy in your writing. What this does is, it enhances the mystery of the antagonist. It creates suspense, creates mystery. When you know the monster, it becomes slightly easy for you to handle that monster. But if you don't know, it sustains the mystery of Shammi. Since the antagonism remains strong because of the mystery, we care more for the four brothers because the antagonism is appearing to be strong. This was a very important example for me, that with a great use of ellipsis, the writer has served the tone, but the writer has also enhanced the stature of the antagonist, which has made sure that the climax remains an emotional affair for us. Every fight in the film, whether it is brothers fighting or Bobby fighting with Baby, it is not dramatic. So just to give you an example, brothers fighting could be as dramatic as Rohan and Bhairav Singh in Udan. That is pure drama. But brothers fighting, except maybe there is one moment where Saji starts beating Frankie and Bonnie comes and he beats Saji. But you'll see it's a 2-minute scene, like very short and cut, it's over, right? So generally speaking, the fight sequences, like the arguments, like the argument between Bobby and Baby is always so sweet. It's so funny and sweet and endearing. They are not trying to be funny. We find them to be funny, right? So that is again something that is consciously done. And are you intimidated by it? Are you intimidated by the idea that there are so many fights and arguments, but the argument has a beautiful tone of drama plus comedy? Are you intimidated? Do you feel like, how can I do it? Can I write such scenes? Do you have such fears in your head? Don't be scared. Tone is something that requires time. Okay. I can give you one example. Not example, I can give you one tool to figure out the tonal quality of your story. If you're writing a story, during the research phase, make sure you watch a lot of reference movies. When you watch a lot of reference movies, do not look for tone in the movie. Look for tone in one scene from the movie. So if you're watching, say, Lage Raho Munna Bhai, the entire film may not be the right reference for you, because it's very tough to determine the tone of the entire film and then use it as a reference. But if you can find one scene in Lage Raho Munna Bhai which tells you that perhaps this is my tone, you watch that scene again and again, try to understand that scene. Similarly, try to watch as many scenes, as many movies as possible, to give yourself all the options to choose from. When you are painting your house, the painter comes with a shade card, shows you the shade card, that okay, these are the shades, now you choose what color you want. If the painter does not come with a shade card, how will you know what shade you want for your wall? So when you watch these movies during research, try to find those scenes which can become your shade card. I'm not saying find a scene and then that scene becomes your final answer. No. When you're creating, obsess yourself with options and not with final answers. So if you have, say, 20 scenes, those 20 scenes become your shade card. The second exercise which I want you to do is, during this time when you are trying to create characters and research and, you know, writing the story and plotting, then around that time, every day, write 1 or 2 pages of scene. Write 2 pages of scene from that film, knowing that this scene will perhaps never find its way into the movie. But these scenes will help you find your tone. If you ask me, what is the tone of Chintu ka birthday? It's tough for me to answer. But what I would do is, I would choose one scene from the script and say, this scene is easy, right? You can understand the tone in this scene. This is the tone of the film. Let me give you an example from Chintu ka birthday. This is a scene which is not in the film. We wrote it and we removed it. Chintu gets to know that the bakery where they had ordered the cake from, that bakery has been destroyed. So Chintu's mind goes into an imagination sequence where we have a broken bakery, we have the dead body of the baker, and little kids are rushing into the bakery to eat cakes. This scene for me was the tone of Chintu ka birthday. And that scene was there in the script, but we removed that scene. It was one of my favorite scenes. That scene helped me write the film because that scene gave me the tone of the film. Eventually that scene had to go, but I had found the tone of the film. All right. So it's difficult to describe the tone in prose, but with this scene, I have described the tone of the film to you, right? There are eccentricities and quirks in the antagonist, which make sure that he's a kind of a comic villain. That again is a tonal thing. Shammi could easily have been an antagonist like the girl's father in Sairat. Just a pure evil, bad guy who is impossible to defeat. But Shammi is a quirky, eccentric, crazy kind of a... So that again helps with the tone, right? The scene where Saji is crying in front of the psychiatrist. Saji starts crying. Now that's such a nice sequence where Saji and Bobby both are opening up about their grief and both are crying. They are going through a catharsis that they need as sons who have lost their parents. But instead of making it and you'll see that the entire scene is quite dramatic. It's not comedic. But the last shot is he's hugging the psychiatrist and crying. There's another very nice example. When Bobby takes up the job at that place where, he works, all the scenes there are quite dramatic. Like he takes up the job and then later he quits the job. He hates the job, right? But there are two very important elements. One is the costume of all the women. It is it's such a quirky sight to see all the women dressed like that. So that little thing makes sure that this serious dramatic scene has a tonal comic quirk to it. And the second moment is when he's about to quit. His friend tells him that listen to music while you are working, and we see Bobby dancing and we see this music. So that again takes care of the tone. So these two things, the costume of all the girls and the music, use of music in that scene, again make sure that the two dramatic scenes in the workplace, at the workplace of Bobby, have that comic quirk to it. The scene where their mother refuses to come with them, next scene is Bobby's cursing her, right? Even that scene is funny. The way Bobby is cursing his mom, he's not angry, like he's angry, but for us, he's not dramatic angry. He's saying a few lines. I don't remember the line, but there's something about Jesus, something about faith, something about God, which is like, oh, that's a funny line. It's a massive scene, especially for Frankie. Frankie is heartbroken. Frankie really tried, to give a solution to his brothers, and Frankie hoped that this would make his mom return. So it's a heartbreaking scene after all. But even when they're discussing that scene, you'll see that Bobby's lines have that comic quirk. Saji's suicide scene is again, it's very dark. It's very dark, but it's funny. So, of course, as you watch the film again, you will figure out that in each scene, like even in scenes which are romantic scenes, you will see that they have one note of comedy. So overall, you have that note of comedy throughout, and that's really amazing about the film, because the characters are not trying to be funny. They are being themselves. And this is the beauty of character work. Once you create non-heroes who don't have insight, they'll say something because they believe in it, but because it is so far away from reality, we find it funny. Just one little thing, again, it's a tonal thing. Shammi's character has been used with tremendous buildup of intrigue. At every moment, we feel like kuch karega ye. He will do something bizarre, because this character is so creepy. You feel like this guy will do something. Throughout the film, they are teasing us. Throughout the film. There's a moment where Shammi has his razor on Bobby's throat, right? So you are scared throughout the film. Kids come to get the football and you are scared. You are scared throughout. Whenever Shammi comes, what will this guy do if you didn't do this? And in the end, if that thriller, last 15 minutes of thriller, that would be a tonal jump the audience was not prepared for. So you tease your audience so well that when that exaggerated, comic, thrilling action sequence comes in the end, you feel like, wow, they have earned it so well because of this intrigue.